Welcome to an exciting new mini series on Curiositas Chronicles podcast, where we will be exploring the vital role that coaching plays in developing leaders for the 21st century workplace. This week is ICF's International Coaching Week, making it the perfect time to shine a spotlight on the immense value that professional coaching can provide individuals and organizations. In this multi part series, I will be joined by Jaya Bhateja in the first episode, a renowned leadership coach who has helped mold and shape many leaders. So stay tuned as we kick off our illuminating conversations on leveraging coaching to develop the leaders that 21st century business needs. It's going to be an incredibly insightful series. A theme of this series is the importance of coaching in the leadership development. So let's welcome Jaya Bhateja as our first guest for this mini series. Welcome, Jaya. Welcome to Curiositas Chronicles podcast.
Thank you, Rohit.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm,
Thank you
I'm
for
good,
inviting
thanks.
me.
No, my pleasure, my pleasure. Who else I can invite on first day of the coaching week? My mentor, my friend, and our trainer as well. So thank you very much, and immense gratitude for supporting this podcast as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohit.
Yeah. Before we start, Jay, I want you to, because this is a coaching week, international coaching week from ICF, why this is important to have such kind of events in a year.
Well, it's exactly like why should you have a Mother's Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why should you have a Father's Day? It's all about giving focus to that agenda, to create more awareness, to actually maybe pay gratitude. For me, it's like, hey, in this week, I'll be more conscious about remembering and recalling and contributing and reflecting about coaching. So that's why, like you have a Mother's Day and Father's Day, you have a coaching. I mean, one day is not enough for coaching, so that's why
Yeah,
coaching week.
yeah, as
Yeah,
a coaching week.
we are
Yeah,
finding it difficult to do so. We want to do so much, but one week is so less for us. So maybe
mm-hmm.
that's that's why we celebrate it. It's more to create awareness and for individuals to reflect back on their own journeys, to be able to take a step forward, to do things that you haven't been able to do, and take coaching support. Maybe
Yeah.
does that does that work for you?
Yeah. It's because I'm quite amazed how many events are actually scheduled throughout the year, and not throughout the year, throughout this week, and throughout the world. I mean, I was amazed. Like, if I go to ICF website and filter the events, there's so many events happening. So
Yeah.
there's abundance of knowledge to gain on those events. So
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So our theme for this week is basically importance of coaching in leadership development.
Hmm.
So I would like to start with, why is coaching so critical for leadership development in today's business environment?
So the thing is that the world was never simple, and it's getting more complex with each day, right? With multiple disruptions, geopolitical environment, even society, even COVID. So many disruptions have actually created a lot of uncertainty in the environment. So there is a term called VUCA, which comes from Army, which actually articulates the kind of environment they are in, right? Volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous. That's VUCA. That was a term that the world has used it for so long to describe the kind of environment we are in. And then now we hear about Barney, which is brittle, anxious, and
Mm.
non-linear and incomprehensible. So these are some of the terms which are actually telling us what's happening at workplaces. And at the ground level, when we talk to the leaders, there is so much of ambiguity, there is so much of uncertainty. Technology has actually created a lot of disruption, along with other disruptions that are happening in the world. A lot of businesses have been impacted by the wars that are happening in the world. The climate change is impacting a lot of businesses. So nutshell, leadership is all about how do you really keep changing your style based on and how do you keep evolving in leadership, right?
Mm.
Now with a new environment, you need a new leadership. Coaching brings those agile tools to you, to leaders, to be able to adapt with the new mindset, to change fast, to stretch potential, to be able to perform in uncertainty and chaos. So that's the reason why coaching is important for leadership today. In fact, the more and more I'm working in this field from last so many years, being a leader myself, being a coach myself, and uh, being in the organization and coaching the leaders, I'm just realizing there is leadership is so incomplete without coaching. Coaching is such an important part of the puzzle, along with mentoring, consulting, therapy, and everything else. Coaching is becoming extremely important to survive at
Mm.
workplace, especially for leaders. So that's how I'm looking at it. The whole landscape is very uncertain and very complex. When new workforce entering into the workplace, there is so much that a leader has to do. It's no more about getting the work done.
Mm.
It is a lot about changing with every day, adapting with people that are working for you, actually doing a lot of listening for them, lot of so there are multiple roles which get joined today in a leadership role. It's no more about results only. So
Mm.
that's the reason why you need coaching. You can't do without it in today's environment.
Mm. Yeah, true. And you mentioned regarding its therapy, consulting, advising. How coaching is actually, obviously, the listeners who are listening probably new to coaching as well, and leaders who don't know about coaching. How this is different from traditional training on mentoring or therapy when it comes to developing leaders.
See, every methodology has a different strength to it. It is meant for something else. Mentoring is meant to take advice from people who have already moved the path. But then
Mm.
somebody can give you advice when they have done something. In today's environment, there is no precedence. There is no data to look at, right? A lot of things. So then what do you do? How do you make decisions when you don't have all the data in place and you don't have any precedence? You don't have anything to analyze on. That's how coaching becomes different. Coaching is basically, how do you deal with ambiguity and uncertainty without having any data? How do you
Mm.
manage yourself better in this kind of environment? What do you do when you don't have a reference, right? So coaching provides you those tools where you can actually keep moving ahead in the unambiguous, complex, and uncertain world, and manage your anxieties and emotions well and still lead. Because for leader, there's no other option. They have to lead in this environment. But how do you lead more effectively is what coaching brings to the table. Consulting has a different objective, mentoring has a different objective, therapy is for a different method. And that's what people need to understand, that all these four key methodologies are important for leaders. So you can't do with one.
Mm.
In today's environment, we're also talking about how can we do healing based coaching, and that's a new conversation, because that's very different from what coaching actually practices. But we're realizing that there is so much of trauma available in the workplace today, right? It is no more only, you can't just talk about work. There is so much happening in people's body and mind that there is a need to channelize that as a coach before
Mm.
I expect them to change or create results or even sustain in the organization. So
Mm.
that's where coaching plugs in. It's actually, if you see four pieces of puzzle, this is an important pie.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So everything has its own place. It's coaching helps at top of everything as well. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So
absolutely.
yeah. So what are the key benefits? You probably coach a lot of leaders, senior leaders as well, C-suite level leaders as well. What are the key benefits you have seen organization reap from investing in the coaching?
See, there are several benefits. Now we are going beyond individual coaching, and we're talking
Mm.
about uh, team coaching. We're talking about group coaching. We're talking about coaching culture and all that, right? Now, coaching is basically enhances the quality of mindset and conversations in your organization.
Mhm.
And when you are focusing on that, the application has to be like that. If you're trying to change mindsets of people, can't happen overnight. So when we coach leaders, I can create an impact in that leader. However, if you want to coach, change the team environment, then you have to coach the team. And if you are trying to look for a sustainable organization, long-term view, which is about managing the immunity of the organization to be able to deal with future crisis better, you basically apply coaching accordingly. So coaching has, again, multiple benefits based on what are you trying to achieve, and that clarity of what are you trying to achieve is important. what coaching should not be used for is to fix people. And that's unfortunately a lot of organizations use coaching for. Hey, there's a problem with this leader, coach him, make
Mm.
him do this, make him do that. And that's where coaching starts failing, because coaching is for development, for mind shift, for decision making, for clarity, for cultivating better behaviors. And we the whole base of coaching is positive psychology. And that's what we need to understand, that if you want benefits from coaching, it has to be used for what is it meant for. It's not to fix people. So whenever I have done coaching to fix people, um, everybody's got disappointed in the game. And whenever I've done coaching for developing people, the results have been great. When the organization finds a difference in the person, the mindset, the conduct, the leader is motivated to apply the tools for their team. The leader is more positive and is able to take action on the goals that we have decided. So really, it's not only dependent on coaching as a methodology or coach's expertise. It's the whole environment that comes together. For example, when you're raising a child, it's not only about the mother, right? it's
Mm.
it's about the father, it's about the environment, it's about the place we are living in. So exactly like that, nothing exists in isolation, or nothing grows in isolation. To grow anything, to reap benefit of anything, the environment needs to support. So that's how I'll answer that. So there has been all kind of cases in my career where there were disappointment also, because the environment was expecting something else and
Mm.
coaching is meant for something else. And there has been a lot of victories also, based on when everything was more aligned and more structured, and there was understanding about, hey, what this can do, what is it meant for, this is meant for something, let's use it for that.
Mm. You mentioned a great thing here. That it's the base of coaching is about positive psychology. Um, yeah, I'm gonna note it down. That brings me to wonder, what's the common leadership derailers or blind spots you have noticed where coaching helps?
Well, here is a paradox, right? So every derailer or a blind spot is actually the strength of that leader.
Mm.
And that's the reason it is difficult to find the blind spots. And that's why they're called blind spots, right? So anything that is a core strength of someone derails them somewhere. Yeah.
Mm.
So if someone is extremely fast in decision making, they're great at that, but they are missing out on creativity, going
Yeah.
deeper, looking into details and stuff like that. So it's a paradox. Strength and focus areas are a paradox that we need to understand and balance it. So it's like, when accidents don't happen when you're driving in 30-40 kilometers per hour. It happens when you know that you can manage the speed and you speed up, and that's when you get overconfident, and that's when you derail, right?
Yeah.
So derailers and blind spots are nothing but the flip side of your strength.
Mm. Mm.
Just an easy way to put it. So any strength you pick up, decision making, confidence, assertiveness, creativity, everything has a flip side. So there's a cost we pay to our strengths as well. And the whole coaching journey is all about first recognizing which strength is derailing you, and then balancing it, being aware, being cautious, being available to your attention to be able to manage it at the right time, right? So cultivating those mindsets, cultivating those behaviors, cultivating those actions that can say, hey, watch, you're again getting overconfident, and let's look at the flip side. So that's what coaching facilitates.
Mm.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
It does. It does. It's like you mentioned earlier. It's not about fixing people. It's about showing them a different way of thinking. Um, so obviously, you coached a lot of emerging leaders as well, and you coached a lot of seasoned leaders as well. So, and then, like you mentioned, like derailers, they've been doing this for a certain time. They are they molded their career on that, so they've been successful because of something they're doing pretty well, right? How does then your coaching approach differ when working with those emerging leaders who are new to this, as a leadership in the leadership roles, or with the seasoned leaders or seasoned executives who are already there, being successful in their life, in their careers?
Well, I'll go back to my answer of the last question, right? You have somebody is a leader, whether emerging or seasoned, because of some of their strengths.
Mm,
And exactly those strengths are what are creating blind spots. So the whole idea is to go back to the drawing board to say, what are your strengths and how are they working for you and how are they not working for you? And then figuring out what else your environment needs that you may not have and then you want to cultivate and stuff like
mm,
that. So the whole idea is to become make a very simple understanding of what's working and what's not working. What's working, let's continue, and what's not
mm,
working and what the environment needs, let's cultivate. So it
mm,
doesn't matter whether the person is emerging or seasoned, it is all about strengths and what needs to be cultivated in that environment. And it's also about setting expectations. It is also about aligning expectations, rather. It's also about, hey, perception management. What I think about myself and what the organization is thinking about myself, does that align? Does that sync with each other? So a lot of coaching is a lot about creating the sync between the environment and the leader, and creating the awareness about, hey, what are some of your strengths which are derailing you, and then creating that harmony in the whole ecosystem. And wherever, if the leader is open and they feel that there is something that, it's about me which is troubling the environment and I need to change, then that needs to change. But we
mm,
need to see the whole practice holistically. Can't
mm,
see a human being in isolation and say, this person has this problem, go and coach this person, and everything should be different because we brought a coach. It doesn't work like that. It's exactly like when a child is in at home and not showing the right behavior. It's not about fixing the mother, right? Or it's not fixing the child. You have to fix the whole environment. Everybody needs to come together to support that
mm,
change.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, because we are what we are because of our relationship is with the environment, our behaviors. Like I think we discussed this in one of our class as well. Like that brought me back to the memory that we were talking about, systemic relationships, how we behave. So if we have to change the culture of the organization, what are the key areas where you think to creating a coaching culture so it doesn't stay like at the leadership level, but actually moves it throughout the organization, because it's like you mentioned, it's a base of positive psychology and basically changing the environment so that people can think differently. So what are the key areas you think today's organizations need to focus on creating a coaching culture?
Well, I think first of all, there is a need of understanding required that you need this, right? Right now, it is fragmented. It's treated as good to have. It is treated as, oh, this is only for top leaders. But if the understanding seeps in, saying, hey, you're working on the
Mm,
soil of the organization. When you're
mm,
planting a seed, you need to work on the soil. If the soil has gone bad,
yeah.
there is a whole treatment process that's needed there, right? If you want a different crop from the same land, then you need to work on the quality of the soil, right? So it's like any change management initiative that takes time, that needs alignment with the leadership, that needs obviously due attention, and then that happens only when the whole environment is aligned. For example, uh, I remember that a lot of organizations never used to pay attention on marketing. A lot of organizations did not pay attention to the HR function. A lot of organizations did not pay attention to the PR, right? Now, the point is that once you understand the benefits of those initiatives for the growth of your organization, then you invest in it. So the first step of any culture change or change management initiative is to be having the alignment, and that's why the lot of work is going on in a lot of organizations where a lot of people are getting coached, the leaders are going through trainings. There is, I think, in some parts that work has started, but are we seeing that as a strategy, a long term strategy, let's say 3 years, 5 years strategy, to say, hey, in 5 years, we'll measure these things in our organizations and things should be different? It's also difficult in today's environment because the flux is very high, right? The people who are changing every day is very different, is very, fast. A lot of people shift jobs very fast. 1 year
Yeah.
in a job is considered as like a big thing in today's environment. So that
Mm,
makes the complexity more complex. the market moving, the geopolitical scenarios, the climate changes, the business decisions, the budgets, and everything. Because everything is moving, right? There's so many moving parts into that. So again, coming back to coaching culture, it is a mindset of the
Mm,
leadership. It needs to be the alignment and understand the benefit of it and start the work. It will take time. It will need that kind of leadership. You need to have a strong sustained leadership who can then percolate all the mindsets and the beliefs to the new generation. It's like exactly like changing the quality of the soil, right? It takes time. You can't do it at once. So coaching culture need that alignment from the leadership. Everything is top down always. And then alignment of initiatives, exactly like how you create a policy and you implement that. Exactly like is
mm,
exactly like how you create a performance management system and you implement that in the organization. Exactly like how you create the values in the organization and you implement that. You do different initiatives. So coaching has to be treated that way. There has to be considered and understood that way, right? It's
mm,
just that because it is it's a process. It's an essential part of leadership. Are you seeing it like that, or are you saying good to have? Till the time you see good to have, uh, it won't get that much of attention in the strategy. But if you see must have, then you'll change your strategy accordingly.
yeah. Thanks, Jaya. This is very profound. Every time I speak to you, I learn something. So I'm gonna keep adding into my list of all the profound quotes you have mentioned. Before we end this first episode of this mini series, I want to understand, or probably more for listeners and the audience, how do you measure the return on investment if on the coaching impact, on the effectiveness? This is a lot of questions I've been myself have been asked a lot of time. How do you actually measure the value of coaching or return of investment?
So I think we go back to the training department,
Mm,
right? How do you
mm,
measure the impact of the training? So anything which is connected to behavior is hard to measure. ROI is basically when you putting things into numbers,
mm,
can only be measured when you're dealing with numbers. Behavior is not number.
yeah.
First of all, there's a lot of complexity there. So return on investment can be measured for things which are in number. Simple. So is ROI the right term, or ROE is the right term? Return on
Mm,
expectations,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
So we have started using ROE as a more measurable term to say, hey, what are your expectations? Because in behavior, it's impossible to predict the result. Similarly, like it's impossible to predict the result in a training program to say, hey, I've given training to my people and then their sales should shoot up. No, because there is a lot of responsibility. The person has to learn and change, right?
mm,
Same thing, coaching. So is ROI the right term, or ROE is the right term? Is there a clarity around? And I go back to that answer, right? Are you trying to fix people? Are you trying to develop them? And if you are doing that, then what are your measures? How do you measure somebody is fixed?
mm, mm,
Can any process in this world fix, adults? Right? That's another question. There are some profound questions that organizations need to ask while hiring coaches. I have witnessed both kind of organizations. One who are mature enough to understand that, yeah, what the best they can do is get the right coach in place and fix the goals properly articulated well and let them do their job. And I've also seen the organization saying we have spent so much of money and nothing has changed, right?
mm,
So the
mm,
point is, it all goes back to expectations. What were you trying to see? What changed? And did you really share that expectation in the beginning? Right? Were you articulated enough to say, I want to see this shifting and these are the opportunities and this is how I will support the person going through change. So there are, again, it's not an easy conversation to have because there are so many moving parts. It's the whole system we are dealing with. I'm not dealing with one individual.
mm,
And the moment it is seen as you're dealing with one individual, you have been paid your coaching fee, and you have to change this person, and that too in 6 months in 6 sessions. I think we are not being realistic there.
yeah. 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 Something I remembered. One of my trainer told me is about the training you do it actually fills your knowledge gap, but you need to fill your skill gap, which comes with practice, which comes with longer
Yeah.
term, right? So is, you get the knowledge, you get the awareness, but you have to work on it to even,
Exactly.
like you mentioned, ROE, return on invest expectation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Because it's not only about knowing that I need to
Yeah.
exercise. I need to exercise like this, but I need to do that,
Mm.
right? The result will only come when I do that. For me to do it, there are so many variables. Am I motivated? Do I have time? Do I get support? Am I getting nudged? So many variables, right?
Mm.
Change cannot be looked at in isolation.
Mm.
It's a system which brings the change.
Yeah.
Exactly like when a person is not doing well in one job and thrives in the other, or not doing in one role but thrives in the other role, is clearly the change of environment, the support system, and how is that enabling it.
Yeah. 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 Nothing is linear. So,
Nothing is
yeah.
linear,
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
singular, nothing is
Yeah.
in isolation, everything
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
connected.
Connected. Yeah. Good. Great. Thank you, Jaya. Thanks for coming into this our first episode of the International Coaching Week and sharing lots of wisdom. And thank you very much again. I was like gratitude to you.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, audience, for watching this quick episode on the mini series on the International Coaching Week. Please stay tuned, and I'll be coming back with another episode tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Take care. Stay safe.